Welcome to the bold analysis. I want to start this podcast by asking you this. I know that I really have quality viewers that follow our podcast. If you like philosophical analysis, then this is one that I want to request you to just pay some attention, take time and listen to this. It will be a very interesting podcast for you. Ladies and gentlemen, the newspaper I'm holding here is Sunday Nation. If there is an edition that I normally don't miss, is Sunday Nation. Yeah, so every Sunday I don't miss. Never miss Zingine, but Sunday Nation I must. The reason why I buy Nation on Sunday is because of Uhuru Kan'gata's weekly article, the weekly column, The Opinion. And I've drawn some very interesting political podcast from that article. I think Nation should pay me for that advertisement. But then, there is that article, opinion piece by Uhuru Kan'gata. History exalts leaders who are decisive. That is here. History exalts leaders who are decisive. And he has spoken in respect to what happened on French Revolution, in clearly telling William Ruto a message that revolution eats its children. He has fashioned that by sending a warning to President Ruto that just the same way he's acting as shooting at sugar cartels, that should be replicated in all the other government sectors. That despite of just more of talking, there should be action. That is the voice that Uhuru Kan'gata has given there. And I want to ask you to take some time because I want to break it down for you. He used the French Revolution that was led by a very influential figure, person known as Maximilien Robespierre. I think I need to confirm the name. Yes, Maximilien Robespierre, between 1858 and 1990. So in this context, William Ruto is that Maximilien Robespierre. He is the person. Then what Uhuru Kan'gata there is saying, and I want you to read the whole thing about French Revolution and how that has been likened to the current situation, political discourse we are having in the country, political situation we are having in the country. This influential figure was a key champion that in the National Assembly, because it was in the National Assembly, he championed for three things. Number one was slave trade. Number two was abolishment of death penalty, and also the equal vote for all. By the French Revolution is what brought the issue of each vote to count. Initially, we had, before that, we had aristocracy. And so it was those who are superior to rule, then inferior to be ruled. And that's why we had the power of unelected kings and queens. But it was allowed, the monarchs. Now, Maximilien, through parliament and other means, successfully toppled the monarch. And the head of the monarch was guillotined, was beheaded. After he led it, he was beheaded. Now that is what, I wanted to get it. That is what William Ruto did against Uhuru Kenyatta. The coup in the 2022. He did the coup against Uhuru Kenyatta. And after that coup, we said that Maximilien is William Ruto in this context. Maximilien was given a position of the chairperson of a committee on public safety. So that was a very powerful post. This close to now what William Ruto has, that even after doing the coup against Uhuru Kenyatta, Ruto got the presidency and was now put in charge of this country. So what happened? While he was in it, he started, Maximilian started, there are those who beheaded the monarch, the head of the monarch by then. In this case were the Mount Kenya politicians who were used to attack Uhuru Kenyatta, to plant Uhuru Kenyatta venom. Those are the ones that are likened by the people that beheaded the king, the head of monarch by then. And so, something happened. One day, Maximilian went to the parliament and said he made a mistake. And that is the mistake that is happening now. Immediately, he started looking at those who had helped to topple the monarch. There was an element of fear and subdued. Those who campaigned for William Ruto in Mount Kenya, and they can't challenge him, because if you dare try that, you see what Wamatangi is going through. Wamatangi declined to give the Del Monte land. Things have turned against him. And so Maximilian did a mistake that Kan'gata mentioned, outlined in that article, that he went to parliament and said that he was going to give a list of legislators that were betrayers so that they would be beheaded. In that article, it's about the gynotype. If you look, the meaning of gynotype is beheaded, katwa kichwa. So what happened? The whole assembly turned against Maximilian because they didn't know. Omesema, we will give a list and the one list will be given, that person will be killed. So they turned against Maximilian, who was the leader, and was the person who was killed. And though he was killed, but remember he was the person who was in charge of that revolution. And that's what brought the phrase, revolution eats its own people. Now, what about this in our political situation now? Immediately Ruto used the young politicians, the venom, to plant Uhuru Kenyatta venom. It has turned that while in power, they have been suppressed and subdued. And whenever they try to sprout and say something, you will told, punguza kizungu mingi, acha kizungu mingi. What is Kan'gata telling William Ruto? That the more you betray the people that elevated you to power, the revolution, Uhuru Kenyatta revolution, can eat you. And how does it eat you? Just the same Maximilian was killed by the same people that had already put him in power. It's the same way that those who campaigned for William Ruto in Mount Kenya, if he betrays the masses, he can face the same fate. I want to ask you to go and look for that article. I may not have given you the more gist, but if you read it, you'll realize. Then he's giving an example of those two leaders. That in Mount Kenya, there are two leaders that endeared to them. And the reason why they endeared to them is people want solutions. People want actions. The country is pregnant for actions, not just more of that talk. Two leaders. Dedan Kimathi was highly loved in the mountain because while some people were trying to negotiate with Mzungu for them to be given land, which was impossible, he decided to go to the forest to fight. And because for him, he went for the solution. It is the same approach with Kenneth Matiba. When some people were still massaging Moi for the repeal of the achievement of multipartyism, Kenneth Matiba went to the street to ask for the solutions. What is Kan'gata saying in that article? He's saying that William Ruto must put his act together and do the action. It is not about talking. Just like the same mistake, he's saying, the mistake in the French Revolution leader, the mistake he did that he went to parliament and said that I want to give a list of those who are betrayers of the same like in government, and then they were going to be beheaded. Now that's what William Ruto is saying. William Ruto is a meticulous planner, but delivery is being plagued by delay. I want to repeat that statement. William Ruto is a terrible planner. And in the speeches we'll hear, I am planning to, I'll do that, you're doing the other one, you're planning next year. There is a terrible planning. But when it comes to delivery, delivery is plagued by delays. That phrase is very important. That is what is happening. And you know what? The resultant effect, and even that article you said used the biblical verse saying, faith without actions is death. You cannot talk. And he's saying, if you don't do what the masses want, you keep on promising and taking, the masses will turn against you. Oh, I like Shrewd Kan'gata's articles. Irungu Barua, I like reading some of his letters. I know many people just need the BBI letter. Even the one for the BBI was a column, by the way. Now, what then happens? What then will the effect if Uhuru revolution consumes Ruto? This thing is simplified this way. William Ruto did a coup against Uhuru Kenyatta and believing to bring the new heaven. That's as simple as it is. Now, if you speak, if you tend to remain on speaking without action, shoot. 3 probabilities. 1, a fresh crop of the team that did Uhuru coup would likely vanquish any other person in that coup, because the leaders, the young Mount Kenya, juvenile Mount Kenya leaders, went and told the voters that Uhuru was a problem. That if we needed to get away with Uhuru Kenyatta, then Mount Kenya issues are sorted. So what happens? They will actually be branded liars of the century, legendary liars. So without a tangible outcome, and there is something happening in Mount Kenya on that. It's the region, Mount Kenya, people in Mount Kenya that are most subdued into fear and submission. 2 instances. When they were in Sagana, there was an instant where they wanted to speak about 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. They were silenced. Just around the Del Monte, Joe Nyutu, I think I read that article, the Murang'a senator, he was raising some issue about the Del Monte land, and he was told, punguza kizungu mingi. Now, Gadhonu Mushomba, he went against William Ruto and took a position. She was subdued and even stripped off from some parliamentary committee on coffee. So that's what we are saying. The regions from that, they are pushed into submission. The crop, the Nyoros, the Rigathis, and that squad, that anti-Uhuru squad, most likely they may exit the political space earlier than anticipated. Number 2. And if not 2027, that will be 2032. Number 2. When masses lose trust in the political power, no voting. Who will come out and vote if people lose trust in the political power? And that is why I do believe, and in what Kan'gata is saying, the masses can conduct a coup. And if Ruto goes into the record that masses conduct a coup, that they vote you out, then it will be the real definition of revolution eats its children. Ruto had a revolution against Uhuru Kenyatta and toppled Uhuru Kenyatta. If he fails, then that is going to be the same story. And I do believe, I was telling someone that William Ruto will not have a very huge voice in his transition politics. Might not. And those politicians trying to yell and dance around him, believing that they can make a political future around William Ruto's shadow, they will realize that the tide might likely change. That's my bold. Thank you.